Reactive training systems.
All right. RTS Bingo 2024. I think it's been a good year. Let's start off with something a little bit less powerlifting related. Went on safari with another RTS coach. Think Ross, I can tap you for that, right?
And Peter, because we were on the
And
safari
Peter too,
together.
yeah.
Mel was with us.
What's the deal there?
Well, that was after the Masters World Championships, and Pia Marangoni, one of Peter's athletes and the owner of Fiercely Fueled Nutrition, lives in South Africa in Johannesburg. So she had set up a really cool safari for us that was remote. It wasn't as touristy because the way that was set up is that you rent the entire lodge and entire facility. It sleeps 10 people, I think it was. You can bring 10 people or you can bring 2 people, but you rent the entire facility. And you do game drives every morning and every evening. And man, that was a really cool experience. You get so close to the animals. We got to watch lions eating a water buffalo like 10 feet away. It was wild. It was absolutely wild.
It's a good way to kind of maximize your experience when you get to do some of this travel, especially as it's related to powerlifting. And Peter, speaking of you kind of going on with that, you probably did more travel than any RTS coach this year, and you were there at the World Championships when we had a number of good performances, and just kind of wanted to kick it over to you to see what stands out.
Yeah, so the travel schedule was pretty good this year, kind of at, I suppose, all the major championships. But of course, Lithuania was a big, kind of a big victory and a big win for us there as well, with Oprah taking that kind of World Championships, and of course from Team Thailand as well, being the first ever kind of open medal that we've had, period, and it being a gold was pretty awesome. And especially when it was in probably one of the most competitive classes of the whole championship. And of course, very nice to Austin to win that, but also just it was a fun session to be part of and a rewarding one as well, to kind of, not just kind of be part of it, to come out and win against some very strong teams and some very strong lifters as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know that to say there was traffic in the 66 podium is a huge understatement, right? We've been over it before, but it's so tight that it kind of bears repeating that, top 3 finishers are all totaling 707.5. And, Oprah was in a position where if he made his third pull, that he wins everything, but if he misses, then he's off the podium, which is pretty wild. You just don't see stuff like that very often. And, I'm pretty jealous of you, Peter, that you kind of got to be there, hands-on during that session. And Ross, you had a fun experience with some world championships this year as well. I guess kind of kicks it back to South Africa for a bit.
Yeah, you could say that. Was able to overcome some adversity along the way with a couple little back tweaks. I had a back tweak a couple of weeks out and was able to maintain and hold strong, hold the course, and was good enough to be able to win my class. And that was a pretty heavily contested class as well. Myself and Steve Cromier, I might be saying it wrong. I apologize, Steve, if you're listening, was second place in the class. And it was also, we ended up being first and second for highest IPF points in the meet. That was pretty cool. The other fun part of the meet was in the 105 session, coaching LS. Man, that guy's had some bad luck this year. He tore his bicep catching one of his cheerleaders falling off a pyramid. So he got the notorious bicep tear that plagues a lot of powerlifters, but not from powerlifting. And so that sucks. And it also hurt his shoulder at the same time. And so we've been training very differently a lot this year. Been doing just a ton of safety bar squats and leg press because he couldn't really load up his arm. And his squat was looking wild, man. His squat was looking absolutely wild and was looking like he was going to make a good run for the 105s. And he started getting a hurt back and tweaked it again. Couldn't quite seem to get it healthy down the stretch. So it was a bit of a Band-Aid meet, so to speak, but he still fought down the line with Anthony McLagan from Ireland. I'm probably saying his name wrong too. I apologize. What was crazy about that battle is both of those two would have been a shoe-in for best lifter too. Anthony actually had his third deadlift was loaded up to take best lifter points. and had to drop down because LS made his third. He missed his second at 300. And we looked at the numbers and we're like, oh, well, we could go 307.5 LS. That'll put you in first, but Anthony will probably drop down and take 2.5 more than you and win, but it's what we can do. And he made his third look easy. I'm like, oh man, if you would have just done that on your second. So Anthony had to drop down to secure the division win. So there's definitely potential out there for some really high level masters lifting. It was really cool.
I was going to say, speaking of injuries, what else have we got in terms of injuries this year? I expect that given a year of experience powerlifting training, probably most of us here have had something go on.
Let me unmute myself here first. Yeah, I've been here just recently trying to figure out a low back injury. It's kind of detective work, to some extent, because I wasn't sure whether I've got another disc injury or I've kind of got it narrowed. It's like start with the whole big area, low back, upper hips, and start narrowing it down to try to pinpoint what the heck the problem is. And I've got it down to pretty much, it's either a disc injury or one of those little rotatories or, little spinal muscles, which can feel a lot like that without the neuropathy.
Adam, you've had a really successful year on the platform. If I remember right, you've had to overcome some injuries and whatnot as well, right?
Yeah, no major injuries, some like reoccurring niggles, I'd say. Done SIJ a few times recently, and I've done it again last Friday, so I've been struggling to move around a bit. Yeah, shoulders, pec, just like real minor strains, just trying to, recover from them and then work around them, adjust what Ross writes my program, so would adjust some of the workload and stuff there, like particularly with bench. And we did have some wins with bench press last prep, which amazingly last prep I really didn't have that. I didn't have anything happen. Like in 3 blocks, nothing happened. No injuries, no niggles, perfect run. To say before that, I had a lot of things happen, like random things. So it was nice to have that. But yeah, little bit of a spiral at the moment, just little niggles and things popping back up. Need to get on top of that.
Gaby, if I remember right, you were dealing with some injury related stuff, but that's cleared up for you in large part as you've kind of come toward the end of the year, right?
Not necessarily, but my perspective has changed a lot based on like the back injury I've experienced a while ago. I'm very grateful that I'm able to train and to still bench. I'm currently dealing with a shoulder injury, which was more of like, it came more from an overused injury. And I also had a back strain, which I was very lucky with. I was getting a bit too excited in training during my deadlifts, and then literally out of nowhere, I wouldn't have expected this. I just strained my back, and it felt very acute in the beginning. First of all, didn't panic, and I tried things that I haven't tried in the past. So I instantly got to keep moving, and also did things like sauna to recover. I took different kinds of supplements, different vitamins, and I feel like just even if it's something small, it started adding up to a good outcome. And I feel like those kind of things really helped me to navigate the pain and also to just keep moving and to reintroduce heavier loads eventually in training. But when it comes to the shoulder injury, it has been nagging for quite some time. But I'm very grateful that it's nothing that really bothers me in my everyday life. I was also able to learn a lot from it, which is really important for me. So I was able to assess where it comes from. Since I did so much SBD, it was basically an overuse. And also in combination with a weight loss that I experienced, and also while I was doing so much SBD, I didn't have really much time to focus and much energy to focus on hypertrophy work, do accessory work, like all of those kind of things that keep the shoulders healthy. And eventually my bench suffered from it strength-wise and also because of the pain. So that's something that I'm navigating right now. I'm doing other stuff as well outside of powerlifting. I'm doing some yoga, some Pilates, which is really exciting. So I'm just trying out new things this year since I want my biases to get challenged, right? So, and just see what's going to come out of it, because I feel like this year I've learned a lot about you can't expect the same outcome while always doing the same things. So I'm just trying out new things, which has been pretty exciting so far.
I feel like I've had a very healthy year myself. I've had maybe a tweak here and there, but it's all been pretty minor stuff, nothing that hasn't resolved in a week or so. And I don't think my back has been an issue at all this year. So knock on wood, that continues. But I feel like I've got that sorted for the most part. Like I know what to pay attention to in my training. I mean, that's not to say that like I've gone back to not paying attention to it at all. Like there's some days where you go, it's a little stiff. Maybe I should make an adjustment to the plan or something like that. But I'm not to the point where I'm going, I messed myself up. I gotta, cancel training for the next week or something like that. So I'm feeling good about that. I feel like I've kind of found the things that seem to trigger issues for me, and I'm being attentive to those things. And, so far so good. It's been a good couple months of momentum. Let's shift gears for a minute and talk about kind of the beginning of next year. Who has tickets to Sheffield in 2025?
I do. I'm going to be there again. I've been there this year. It was pretty cool. But what I'm looking forward to next year is also seeing some of the RTS coaches, because I know I'm not going to go alone. So Mike, you're going to be there. Mel is going to be there potentially. And Peter. Yeah.
Peter.
We can expect you as well.
Yeah, that's going to be a good deal. Gaby, I know you and I bought tickets right after Sheffield last year. And then turned out that when Oprah got qualified to go, I can hand off my ticket to someone else. So it'll be cool that we have a group of 4 of us there this year. And I'm really excited. I've never been before. And I mean, nobody ever says anything but just the most positive things about the experience. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Peter, you've not been to one yet either. It's a bit of a trek for you.
Yeah, so it'll be my first one as well, because had considered just going again just because it's looked so good the last couple of years as well. So definitely, now it's a long trip from here as well. So was kind of debating, but then of course we got our qualification in. So that's the best way to experience it, and hopefully a good result to come.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Prep has been going well for Oprah and everything, and yeah, this is going to be exciting. So I guess shifting back to reflecting on 2024 a bit, I think we saw a lot more use and utility from a tool like ChatGPT this year. I know that I kind of really started using it a lot more for different things. Have you guys played around with this at all, especially like as it relates to coaching or to training or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. Like sometimes when I have questions, I just type it in. So I think I'm more of like the casual ChatGPT user, or when I'm thinking of something, I'm just telling it to give me some other ideas that are similar. Same goes for content creation. Like when I have a title in mind, I'm just telling it to give me 20 ideas. When I don't like them, I tell it to give me 20 more ideas until I'm satisfied. So, but Mike, I know you have a very interesting system on how you work with ChatGPT. So can you tell us more about that?
I don't know if I could call it a system just yet, but I definitely play around with it a lot. I use it for all manner of things. I've come to learn that I actually work pretty well in a collaborative sort of way, which if you're an online coach, that's just not the way that you work most of the time. Most of the time you're working by yourself, and all alone. So there are times when that's best, and then there's times when I think like, man, it would help a lot to just talk this idea out. And I don't necessarily need a particular kind of expertise for it, just to talk. So sometimes that's helpful. And you do get a lot of sometimes low quality feedback, but it is something to kind of help spur further thought processes. And there is definitely, plenty of occasions where, there's been some idea that I had not otherwise thought of. And like I've used it quite a bit in terms of like just training feedback as well. I pay for the upgraded version of it so you can, upload some documents. So I've uploaded a bunch of articles and whatnot that I've written, and I'll talk to it about my training. But it's a bit of a double-edged sword there, because two things. One, I'm giving it a bunch of information on how I already think about training, and then it's akin to talking to yourself. And I've come to realize that it's a chat bot, so it's just by its nature very agreeable. So it's pretty easy to convince it of, like, look, if you want to do your deadlift session today, even though you really shouldn't, you can convince it to tell you that's a good idea. It'll give you that validation that you crave. But so it's definitely not without risk, I guess. But it's been interesting, and yeah, I'm definitely gonna keep playing with it. Seems like maybe I'm was one more power users on the team for that one, but so it goes. Yeah. Also new this year for us, we had a couple big moves. John wasn't able to make it to today's podcast, but I know he moved house this year. I moved from Washington State to Belgium, so that's been a hell of an experience.
We actually also moved our gym this year, and I moved to a new place as well this year, which was pretty exciting. So moving an entire gym was pretty exhausting. We did that in like 2 or 3 days. Big shout out to the guys who did that the entire night. I think.
Well, that's a strongman gym as well, right? So it's not like you're talking about, put some plates on a cart and break down some combo. You're talking about lots of equipment, some of which, can't really be modified that
Yeah,
much.
exactly.
So.
Like the big things such as logs. Yeah, because we have a strongman and powerlifting gym, so there was a lot of stuff to move. But it's really cool to see the gym coming to life. Like slowly but surely, there's more machines that get added to the gym, so it's pretty cool. You have yet to see it.
That's awesome. That's all. Yeah, it's time to start, doing more traveling around Belgium and seeing some things. So I'm out of excuses.
For sure.
At least you and I can be on the same time zone now, which will be helpful in terms of the scheduling meetings. I know that with Peter being in Thailand and Adam being in Australia. By the way, appreciate everybody being on the call today, because when you've got this many people scattered this many places, it's going to be a terrible time for someone.
Yeah.
So that's just the nature of the game, but I appreciate you all doing that.
I feel like this is a big achievement on itself, because one more thing that is on our bingo card is that we got confused about time zones, and I feel like this applies to pretty much everyone here. Like whenever we schedule podcasts with different time zones, or even with my own athletes, I have to admit, like I kind of came up with a system whenever I save my contacts on WhatsApp, I always write down like how many hours separate us from each other. But the thing is, now with the daylight saving, it gets even more confusing, because some countries do it, others don't. So I have no idea where I am at the moment. I am just very confused, and I just gotta accept the fact that it's just hours that separate us from each other, but that's all right. One thing that comes up is train with an RTS coach. So I'm really excited because I got to meet Kenny in real life finally. And I feel like whenever I meet new RTS coaches, it's like you can compare it to Pokemons, you got to catch them all. So I still have to tick off some boxes, like, and meet some of you guys in real life still. But that's always fun.
Yeah, it's a dream of mine to get us all together in one place, which, I talked to Ross about this quite a bit. Well, Ross, you just mentioned that having so many of us scattered so far and wide, that becomes a pretty difficult operation. But hopefully at some point there will be a big enough competition that'll draw kind of all of us in.
Mike, I remember many years ago too, speaking of like getting everybody together, when we had those dreams when I first started working for you and joined the leadership space, and it was just me, you, and Casey on leadership, and we always had those dreams of just getting the three of us together from a team building perspective, and then we just continue to grow, and we're just making that dream harder and harder.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Ross. It's easy to kind of become a little myopic and look at, how things have been lately and how you expect things to go soon. But if we look back a little bit further, come a heck of a long way. And pretty proud of what we've been able to build here.
Yeah, man. There's been, like, if we sat down and listed all the things, I mean, I'm sure you and Mark could list even more from when you two started working together. But I'm just thinking about the stuff that's changed and has happened since I've come on board. And obviously, it's really easy to point at the growth of the coaching staff when we can look at a screen. We're used to 2 or 3 people, and here we got 7 people. That's pretty clear and obvious one right in front of you. But there's just been so many different things. It's almost an overwhelming list.
Well, Mark gets credit for being the OGest OG because he was with, he got involved with RTS almost at the beginning. It was like 2009, right?
Yes, sir.
I guess for the 10-year anniversary, we did a big seminar and kind of 10-year party at Das Gym in Austria, which is pretty cool. But that's going to be a good bit of time ago now. Time flies, as they say. And, the team's grown a lot since then. It'd be cool to do something similar to that.
Yeah, that would be great. That was a once in a lifetime awesome thing. Be great to do something like that again with everybody, the whole team.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, sounds like 2028 rendezvous in Vienna.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, hey, if anybody listening wants to do like a full-on RTS get-together party seminar, then let me know. We'll figure out how to make that happen. So if anybody interested in hosting, just send me a message.
Thanks. Now the IG DMs are going to be full all day.
Enjoy that one.
What would your most challenging thing be for 2024 as far as either training, your personal training, or an athlete? What's the biggest challenge you've run up against?
So I always struggle a little bit with questions like this just because there's the thing that pops into my head first. And then I go, was that the most challenging? He said, what's your favorite movie? So I've got to really take this seriously, right? We talked about me moving. That was definitely a challenge in my personal training, but it's just a thing. If I think about it a little bit more, it's not even just limited to this year. I did have a client that I worked with, in the early part of this year. We had been working together for several years, to be honest. He's the only client I've ever had where I feel like I kind of ran out of ideas, in terms of like coming up with training that would work. And so definitely like the most difficult, but not difficult like in an interpersonal way, but just in like a training response kind of way, like in terms of just being able to figure out the kind of training that he needed to progress. And I mean, look, it's a mystery and we are not going to be able to fully diagnose it on this podcast, but we tried everything. Like both, had a very collaborative relationship, and we would come up with different things to try. Let's try more volume. Let's try less volume. Let's try higher frequency. Let's try lower RPE work. What were you doing before you came to work with me that was effective? Let's try something that looks a lot more like that. And I mean, block after block, they would either fizzle or just never quite hit, and then you would have occasional blocks that would send you backwards. So that ended up being a very difficult situation, and one that I'm kind of sad to say I was not able to figure out. I suppose if I got to put a positive spin on it, it's good that this is not a frequent thing. This is the only guy that I've ever kind of scraped the bottom of the idea bucket with. Every other time, either somebody's gotten frustrated and wanted to move on, or we've, found the thing that works that we need to make a positive effect in their training. Yeah, that was one that I never did really figure out fully. So I'm hoping that he sorts it out, whether it's, with the help of someone else or not, or whatever, because I want to pick his brain and figure out what were we doing wrong, because like I said, we tried all the ideas.
I feel
Oh,
Mel has a
no.
lot of challenges that she faces, I think, that could be worse in value.
The travel?
Yeah, because we know Peter travels a lot, but he traveled probably more than anybody on the team, to my knowledge.
I'm lucky I'm going into a slow season, but yeah, I usually fly once a week somewhere, and I'll typically research where the gyms are ahead of time. Then I'll have a backup gym in case that doesn't help. And sometimes I'd come down to like text this person for the fob to get into the unsupervised gym with all the equipment, meet her at the concession stand, and then find her afterwards and return the fob. Or they won't have any Instagram presence, so I'll have to find their Facebook account and then scope up if they have a squat rack or a Smith machine. Yeah, and so many gyms just have a Smith machine. It's kind of my nightmare just going in and seeing that. But overall, it's just
There's another fun little bingo card slot on here that I think's I giggle about, just for many reasons. The wore an RTS shirt and felt proud about it. There, I forget, Mike, when that was when we started doing some of the apparel a little bit differently. But as a result of us making some changes, we were sending out all the shirts to ourselves for testing and batch testing and different things of that nature. That became wow, now over half my closet is RTS shirts. And I don't. John's made similar comments about his wife making fun of him wearing an RTS shirt every day. And a lot of times I'll go to get dressed and, which RTS shirt should I wear today?
Yeah, it's a good problem to have from my perspective.
Definitely.
No, I've had similar sorts of issues, and I've had to make more of an effort, like when I'm not working, to maybe entertain some variety.
I'm still waiting for the Get Under the Disappointment Bar t-shirts. We haven't released that one yet.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, there's several that I think would be fun for us to do. We should do more fun t-shirts in 2025.
I'm going to need a bigger closet.
Another spicy one on the bingo card is got involved in powerlifting drama. Do we have anyone here who got involved into drama this year? Because there's always some drama going on.
I don't get to check that one off. I'm pretty excited about it.
Definitions are important for that one, I think, but I'm not sure I would I don't think I would raise my hand for that. I think I've stayed pretty clear of most powerlifting drama. Does that mean things are boring?
I think we just stay pretty neutral. But there was one moment where I created a post because the IPF, there's often going on certain dramas, or they just release some statements or some new rules that people just in general don't agree with. So there was this one thing with the IPF course that happened this year where slides got leaked about female lifters, how you should treat them, things of that nature. And it just didn't sit right with a lot of people, including myself. So I just decided to do a post about it, just to put things into the right perspective, because I feel like that's really necessary. Just when it benefits the community in general, I think that's the right move to do. But yeah, talking about the drama, like coaches against other coaches, I don't really know about that. I don't think that's any helpful.
Yeah.
It's just for entertainment purposes.
Yeah, that would be the best case in those sorts of environments. But yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's been an approach that we've kind of taken kind of across the board. Like if you just say what you do believe, then that's a good way to go about engaging with the community. Those slides kind of highlighted a lot of perspectives that we wouldn't share. So what do we think about this? I think we can, speaking about that in a clear way is a good way to handle it.
But maybe for next year, we can talk in the upcoming marketing meetings if we should just start clickbaiting people with powerlifting drama.
Yeah, I think that's what the people crave.
I think it's also a good moment to look back to a whole year of really nice podcasts that we did. We had some moments, like some break when Mike moved to Belgium, where we didn't do a lot of podcasts. But in general, like, we recorded a bunch of pretty interesting podcasts with really interesting guests. The first podcast of the year was with Kaliman, followed by a podcast with Evan Snana, which I'm looking back to with a lot of positive feelings, because that was actually the start of a really good connection with him, and which later on emerged into a relationship.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the conversations with other coaches, and I wanted to put a lot of effort into that this year, and like you mentioned, I kind of got derailed with moving a little bit, but we're bringing that back in a big way. So yeah, the conversation with Kelly Mann was a good one. I think it's good to kind of cross-pollinate ideas with other coaches. There's always more to learn, different perspectives to gain, and ultimately helps us do a better job for our athletes. Hey, let me tell you something that I know about you. Your lifting is important to you. It's probably one of your biggest priorities. And for people like us, nothing compares to the feeling that you get when you set a new PR. That feeling of being the best that you've ever been, of doing something that you've never done before. This is what we're all after, and it's also what RTS specializes in. Getting you the absolute best program possible so that you can hit new PRs and reach your goals. We call it radically individualized training, and we're really good at it. Whether we need to account for busy schedules or equipment limitations, or precisely turn the dials and get the details of the program just right, we have the tools and the experience to guide your lifting to the next level. To us, coaching is all about leadership, relationship, and creative problem solving. A coach should be poised to help you make tough decisions about training and competing so that you can continually grow in your development. And of course, a coach should be a first-rate problem solver, especially when it comes to your training, technique, and strategy. Now, all this has to be built off of a really strong, professional coaching relationship that emphasizes trust and respect. Additionally, RTS coaches are not on an island. We have a strong network of professionals to reach out to, so if you find yourself in need of some specific expertise, say in the realm of nutrition or injury management or sports psychology, there's a deep expertise available there too. For more information, go to store.reactivetrainingsystems.com and click on coaching. That's store.reactivetrainingsystems.com, then click on coaching. Hope to see you on the team soon.